Jeff Park, head coach of McKinney Boyd's powerlifting team, joins me now, and we're going to talk about their results in the McKinney ISD Invitational as well as the Princeton Invitational. You've already had 2 meets so far this year. You competed in back-to-back weeks. Was that any much of a strain on the guys to go back-to-back week to try and get their totals up?
It really wasn't. It was, like I said, we've got when we were talking earlier, a young team, and so I think it was good to kind of jump in and get going and get those back-to-back meets, because we had one of our lifters, our 114-pound, one of our 114-pound lifters was DQ'd in the first meet we went to, and then he did very well in the second meet at Princeton. So I think it was a big learning experience for these young guys, and they were able to make some increases in that second meet.
Now let's talk about Carl Reynoso. We were talking about he's the 114 lifter. He was DQ'd in that McKinney ISD Invitational meet because he didn't wait long enough to get that judge's clearance to rack the weight back. It wasn't that he couldn't lift it, it's that he didn't completely set himself just yet. But when he did go in the Princeton Invitational, he came out with a superb total of 740 through the 3 lifts, and he now has the second best total so far of anybody in Region 6.
That's correct. He's excited, and I'm excited for him. You know, he's, like I said earlier, he's very serious about what he's doing, and he learned what kind of focus you have to have in that first meet. So that was good for him, and then to jump right back in, you know, in that second meet. And I think it'll be good for us to do some training and really work and get ready for this next meet on the 1st in Lone Oak, you know, to give us a little bit of time. Now we know kind of what we can do, and maybe we can get a little stronger for that meet.
I know also your son Wyatt is on the powerlifting team. He's one of the returners on your squad. And how much of a challenge is it to balance being a dad and being a coach at the same time?
It can be a challenge. It's been a blessing for us, to be honest with you. We enjoy being here in McKinney and at Boyd, and so. But I think it's probably a little harder on Wyatt than it is me sometimes, because he has to balance that. You know, he's dad, but he's also my coach, and so. And then we have a long drive where we live, coming to and from McKinney, so we're in that car together a lot, and I've had to balance giving him his space and still coaching him, and he's done a fabulous job with that. I'm very pleased with how hard he's worked.
And Wyatt, he got 4th place in the 164-pound class in the McKinney Invitational. He moved up in weight class for Princeton and got 11th. And in that Princeton Invitational, you're competing against a larger field than the McKinney ISD Invitational. It's about 2.5 times the size of the entire field of the previous tournament. So even though some guys, and as far as place-wise, finished a little bit lower, in reality, they probably finished a little bit higher and did indeed improve most of their totals.
I think when you look at their totals, they went up. They all improved with their totals going into that Princeton, or coming out of that Princeton meet. Like I said, we're a young team. A lot of these guys, Wyatt's the only returner that I have, and so that first meet was a huge standard for them to get to figure out what kind of focus they needed and figure out where they were. And so we were able to go from there and then get our openers a little better set and for that Princeton meet, and I think we saw a lot of improvement.
Ramon Reedus is one of your leaders of your team, and he finished 2nd in the McKinney ISD Invitational. He's in the 220-pound class, and then at Princeton, even though he finished only 9th, he improved his weight total by 40 pounds, so with 2 more meets to go, you can see him creep even higher than 1050, which he's currently at that he's lifted.
I think that's correct, and we've talked about getting over that 1100 mark, and I think he's, like I said, he's very serious about that. He is one of our varsity football players, and he's taking this leadership role very serious, and so he comes in, he works out usually twice a day with us in the mornings, and then comes in after school to get a little extra, work on some different body parts and things like that. So very proud of his progress and how hard Ramon's working.
Patrick Quintana also placed in the McKinney ISD Invitational, did well at Princeton as well, and you moved him up from the 275-pound class to the super heavyweight class. How much more competition was there, you know, moving up in that weight class? Because obviously, you know, usually if you have more size, you're going to be able to lift more. How did he respond to that challenge?
Patrick responded very well, and Patrick's a great kid. Does very well academically and is also one of our varsity football players. So I knew, and it was kind of, there's a funny story behind that too. When he left on Friday, the offensive line were going to a buffet, and they sometimes go out and eat together and kind of build that camaraderie. And he told me going out the door, he said, "Coach, we're going to a buffet. I may be super heavyweight tomorrow." And sure enough, he was a little over that weight limit, so they bumped him up. But Patrick's the type of kid that's going to compete no matter what weight group he's in. And it was good for him. He got to see some of those big kids. There was a young man from Lone Oak, which we'll see again on the 1st when we go out to Lone Oak for that meet. I can't remember. I want to say he was up in the 1,500 pound range. So it was good for Patrick to see, where those expectations are and what he needs to strive to get.
Yeah, see where that gap is between him and the ceiling in that weight class. And maybe next time avoid the buffet, maybe if you want to stay down a class, but it works out anyway.
Right.
Going into these last couple meets and then trying to get these guys qualified for regionals, top 10 places in every weight class make it to regionals automatically. What are some of the things that you're going to work on to help them continue to increase those totals when you're not at these meets?
Well, when we talked previously, I talked about it was good for us to go to that first MISD meet and then the very next week jump right into Princeton. Now we've got 2 weeks that we can kind of sit back, regroup, look at our totals, see how much we've gained and where we can go. So we've got a couple of weeks to hopefully get a little stronger, maybe work on our form and our techniques, and hope to see some more gains at the Lone Oak meet.
And also, most of these guys are coming from football into the powerlifting season. And sometimes in the football season, you can get a little bit banged up. You can carry some injuries going in. How fresh are these guys, going into the powerlifting season?
I think we're pretty healthy. Like you said, you can get a little banged up and bruised, but everybody is. And these guys are young, and they recoup from that pretty well. And we've got a great training staff here at Boyd, and they work with these young men. And so I think we're good. We're pretty healthy right now. So I think as far as that goes, we're going to be all right.
Hopefully you guys stay healthy and continue to do good things here this season. Coach Park, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
McKinney Boyd Powerlifting off to a strong start. Already has competed in 2 meets. It's a young group looking to continue to improve as they head and try and qualify for some regional meets.